All right, so in Grenade, page 61, we're back to Ray speaking. And again, it keeps going back and forth, but at almost the same time period. So we can see what Hideki's done and what Ray's done within moments of each other because their stories do overlap, right? They seem to be very close to each other. I'm going to guess within a half a mile of each other, especially with the sound and the people that they're seeing and running by that they both have encountered and that kind of thing. So Ray is in his foxhole, which would have been basically a big hole that they dig, and they can hide down in that because the Japanese soldiers would be looking out over the horizon for buildings or people walking. But if you dig a hole and you're down in the hole, it's harder to spot right away. They have to have been watching you or have sent out like spies or scouts. So he's hanging out with Big John. That's his foxhole buddy, right? You had somebody else with you. You could protect each other. And their jobs are to take turns with their buddy so that they're not both asleep at the same time. Somebody has to be watching out, keeping your foxhole safe. And he's told he's got first guard duty, but he can't really sleep because he just keeps seeing Hard Luck's death over and over again in his face, and he in his head. I mean, and he can't figure out how to shake the image. And I don't know if you've ever had something like that happen to you, where you've seen something that really bothered you or heard about something. I know that personally has happened to me. I experienced something rather traumatic in college, or rather, somebody I know did. And then I heard about it on the news, and for days I had the hardest time sleeping because I just kept seeing the same thing over and over in my head and how traumatic it was. So he's going through the same type of thing. And Big John's trying to make jokes with him. He's like, don't forget your helmet. You can use this as like a bowl. You can use it to wash up in. You could use it as a seat. He's going through this whole list of all these things you can do, but it's not going to protect you. Like a bullet can still go through it. But other than that, it's got a million uses. It's a wonderful gift. And while they're in this foxhole just chatting, they start sharing stories. Big John shares his story about how he came to the Marines, and it's very different from Ray's. He dropped out of eighth grade, he stole a car, and when he was in court, he basically had the choice of jail or the Marines, and he decided the Marines was a better fit for him. And that gives Ray this thought that what other stories? I don't really know these guys as well as I thought I maybe did. What brings everyone here? But they hear somebody say, "How'd you make out, Joe?" in a quiet voice. And even though it's English, it's Japanese. Now, during the war, the Japanese soldiers often did this type of thing where they would try and disguise themselves as U.S. soldiers so that they could get closer to the enemy and attack without being caught. But Big John's not going to be fooled. He knows that this keeps happening and he just opens fire. At which point they see the Japanese soldier who's coming at them. And Ray, in a moment of panic, though the right thing to do, he shoots this soldier that's coming at him. And the soldier doesn't quite die. He sits up, in the throes of death, most likely. But he sits up to fire again, and Ray shoots again and kills him. and and that's when it says he just starts sobbing. He thinks that they're all going to make fun of him because they've all seen death today and they're all tough and they seem fine, and he starts sobbing, but Big John's there to comfort him. And Big John's like, this is the first time you've ever killed somebody, and that's hard on all of us. We understand completely, because this is a moment for Ray that he's never going to forget. It's going to probably haunt him for his whole life. But then he brings up this thing that I think we forget because we've read this over several days and several pages. But he says all this sadness and terror and shaking rage he felt about everything he'd seen and done in just one day on Okinawa. So we think about all these grenades and these bombs and people dying and Hard Luck dying and watching the people jump off the cliff, and now he's killed somebody. All that's happened within 24 hours, guys. So this has been a horrific day for him. At which point they say, let's go look through the soldier's possessions. Does he have anything that we could use? And while they got the rifle, what Ray sees as most important is the picture of this man and his family. That this was not just an enemy or somebody attacking him, but this was a human being who, like him, had a family and had people who cared about him. And so he decides he wants to keep the picture so that he can remember this person and not let this person just be kind of forgotten or thrown by the wayside as just another enemy, but as somebody who had a life that was valuable.